episode was by far the best, which is a good thing because I was starting to worry that this series was going to be absolutely terrible the whole way through. So yeah, I think this was a fantastic episode. I finally feel like this show is accurately, or at least believably, showing me what the Watchmen universe could be 30 years after the graphic novel. The first 2 episodes, not so much, though mostly the first episode just felt like a shitty imitation of what that world might be. But with this 3rd episode, I'm actually becoming more confident in this show and excited. Laurie being a bitter old woman doesn't surprise me at all. She never wanted to be a masked adventurer. Her mother pushed her into it, and then after everything she experienced and the burden on her of knowing the lie she went along with to help the world be at peace, or at least stand down from nuking the shit out of each other, probably weighed down a lot on her and just started to chip away at her soul. So I'm also not surprised she joined the FBI and was part of the anti-vigilante task force, because again, she just was really never into the masked adventurer stuff. I'm actually wondering, now that we know this is Laurie and that Dan is in jail, that if Dan Night Owl continued to be a masked adventurer, a vigilante, eventually he was caught, and, you know, there's that prison break he was responsible for. And so, because we know they took on, Laurie and Dan got married and they took on different last names, Hollis, and then tried to go forth. I would imagine, since it was so much a part of Dan's identity and a power thing, he had a hard time getting a hard-on without being in costume. So I would imagine he kept doing it and eventually was caught, and then maybe Laurie decided to work for the FBI, catching vigilantes because she knows them. She used to be one, and maybe that was part of a deal to keep her out of jail. I could see that happening. Also, I love the little digs about that from her boss, going, who wouldn't want to have a masked identity, right, Blake? And she just kind of has to go along with that. Oh, and with the owl, I think that's so adorable. She has a pet owl, showing that she obviously still really cares about Dan. I mean that, and her willing to help the politician become president so he can get a pardon. Also, going along with the person Laurie is now, I truly love that she has embraced being the biological child of the comedian Eddie Blake. Not only in taking his last name, but you saw a lot of things this episode that very much so seemed like her father. The bad, dark jokes, the laughing uncontrollably when she was almost killed by a vehicle dropping down on her, her talking about the secret compartment and actually referring to the comedian as her dad, even though she had a really hard time with that when she was younger, but obviously she's accepted it now. She also calls things a fucking joke, which is just like her father used to do. Everything's a joke. It really seems like the older she got, the more she became like her father. It's also interesting that she does keep nostalgia, so we saw that painting where she lives of Night Owl, Ozymandias, Dr. Manhattan, and her as Silk Spectre, like ripped right out of the graphic novel. So the fact that she even kept that around as a reminder, given how much she does not like Adrian and what he did, I don't know, I find that a little bit interesting. But you also know, as we get older, we tend to have a lot of nostalgia and think back on things a lot more. Now let's go back to the FBI, because you know the Agent Petey, who had Rorschach's journal entry, which was the first journal entry in the issue 1 of the graphic novel. Well, if you go onto HBO's site, they have something called Peteypedia, and basically this agent is keeping notes and journal entries that talks about the current Watchmen universe and also things that are going on. It's a lot of fun. It's good for people that maybe want to know a little bit more about this world and where they're at, because there are definitely tidbits in there that we haven't gotten so far in the show. So if you are interested in that, that's the Agents, I know it's pretend, but it's the Agents wiki on there, and yeah, you should check it out. Now let's move on to Jeremy Irons, and oh my goodness, he's Adrian, he's Ozymandias, who would have thought. Oh, everyone thought that. I don't know how anyone would be shocked by that that's who he turned out to be. So, Jeremy Irons in that costume. Hot. Now, him testing the space flight suit is interesting to me, and conspiracy theory here, why would he be quarantined or locked up in a certain area on Earth while everyone else thinks he's dead? That doesn't really make sense. So it seems more likely Dr. Manhattan has him and he's on Mars. And I only say that because of the two images that should be up on the screen looking very similar. So now I'm wondering why. Why did Dr. Manhattan take Adrian to Mars? So we know at the end of the Watchmen graphic novel that Adrian's plan worked, peace happened, Dr. Manhattan went to Mars because he wanted to experiment with his own life, creating life. But at some point, something must have happened. Adrian must have threatened him in some way or threatened the planet in some way, and Dr. Manhattan thought, yeah, you're gonna come on Mars and you're gonna stay here and you're gonna chill. So is he testing flight suits with the thought of getting back to Earth? Is he constructing a ship to get back to Earth? I don't know, this is all very fascinating, but you know this is when within Dr. Manhattan's power to create his entire environment in there, and I really want to know what he did, because Adrian disappeared in 2007 suddenly, and nobody knows where he went, and they presumed he was dead. So why did John take him? What is going on between those two? Oh, by the way, him kicking his dead AI clone, whatever, when after he was frozen and the test flight failed and you could see his insides and shattered bone. Pretty gross. Not gonna lie, that was pretty gross. But speaking of Dr. Manhattan, he is definitely pissy with Laurie, him dropping a vehicle right in front of her. So I know that they didn't exactly separate on the best terms. He was sad and angry that they weren't going to be together anymore and that she was sleeping with Dan, and maybe a little bit of that anger is still left over. I always found it funny that he's virtually a god, yet he fell in love with this woman and then was jealous of her being with someone else. It just seems very peculiar. But we also know that John really doesn't like women as soon as they start to age, so he's probably like, haha, bitch, you're getting old, I'm staying the same. I almost feel like him dropping the car is a veiled threat of, shut the fuck up. Your dark jokes, they're not really jokes at all. No, stop. And if you're trying to threaten me, I can end you like that. But you also see that Laurie is still really struggling with her past and what happened at the end of the Watchmen graphic novel. Holy hell, the giant blue dildo! Simulating Dr. Manhattan's penis. Fucking hilarious. I also love that she has that porn parody of she takes on Dr. Manhattan, or takes on Manhattan, and in the graphic novel, she was so grossed out by her mom keeping that sort of stuff, the porn parodies of her mom with people, and yet now she has them herself. Though I think with her mom, it was more of a flattering thing. With Laurie, I think it's more of a kink. You know, once you've had sex with a virtual god, probably really hard for anyone else to compare to that. Also, and this is completely fine and I'm not age shaming whatsoever, I kind of have this feeling that Laurie sleeps with younger men a lot because she has to deal with the memories of being with someone that had such great abilities in bed. Also love that Petey wore the vigilante mask. Some of my favorite moments, I love the use of the ticking clock right before something really bad is about to happen or during it. Honestly, the music and the background noises in this show have been top notch. Night Sister and Laurie, absolutely amazing. I love those two butting heads. Night Sister is the best new character in this show. She is such a bamf. Laurie calling the looking glasses machine the racist detector was absolutely hilarious. And I'd say the saddest moment deals with Laurie too, that she feels like she has no gift, that God gave her no gift. I was like, damn, girl. Come on. So yeah, I think this was a fantastic episode. I'm thoroughly impressed, and I'm a lot more excited about the rest of the season. But you let me know what you think in the comment section down below.
Monkey chased the weasel, the monkey thought